Hello Reborners, my name is Karen and this is Making Dolls with Karen. We're back with Emma. She looks like this now. She's had her bake. Her blush on her face is not dark enough, just as I suspected it wouldn't be. It's really hard to darken up this blush on the face in one go to the color that you really want it to be. Now, on her fingers and stuff and her toes, they look better. They're darker, and this is probably good enough for them. I'm going to crease her now because if I don't crease her really soon, it'll be too late to get a good creasing color on her. I'm going to sharpen my pencil just a little. It's just a little too dull for me. It looks like this. And while I don't use a really sharp pencil because it makes too thin of a line, I do like it a little sharper than this, just a little. And I find that if you sharpen it in the, these pencil sharpeners just do not last. Oops, that's something you don't want to do, is spill it all over your table. Not only will the colored part of these pencil shavings come off on your doll, but the other part will just stick to your doll, so get it off your table. But these pencil sharpeners are very cheap. They're like 59 cents or something at Walmart. They sharpen just as good as any other pencil sharpener. Bountiful Baby sells one, or maybe it's Dolls by Sandy, I don't know which one. But they sell one that's supposed to be just for sharpening these pencils, and it's expensive. And it doesn't sharpen them as good as this one does. This is just a pin and gear one you pick up at Walmart. I'm just going to dump these shavings. And it sharpens really good. The problem is the plastic just breaks really easy. It's already got a big crack coming down. I must have dropped it or something. And then the lid won't stay on after it cracks enough. And then every time you pick it up, you're dropping shavings, and that you really do not want to do that, because it will, like I said, the colored part of the shavings that will be in there will actually come off on your doll, and the other part just sticks to your doll. Anyway, I'm gonna sharpen it in this bigger hole. It has the hole for the regular size pencil, this size, and then those big fat pencils that little kids use at school, because this is a school pencil sharpener that you put in your little kid's little pencil box or something, you know. And this one doesn't shave away quite as much of the pencil as this little hole does. So that's why I do it. I just stick it down in there and just give it a couple twists, and it'll just sort of sharpen the point. See, that's all it did. Make the point a little bit sharper. And I didn't lose any pencil that way. I'm not going to put any pencil on her face. I don't even think I like what it did to Emmy's face. But I do the arms and the legs. And with a sharper pencil like this, you can really get down into the little cracks between the toes and stuff really good. You want to put a little bit of definition between there. And when you put your pencil down to make your mark, you want it to go right in that little crease that you're trying to crease. You don't want it to stick out the edges and start marking on the sides of the toes and stuff. You want it right down in that little crack, and you just want to make one little line going down through there. It doesn't need to be really dark. It just needs to show. And what we're going to do before we even put any more paint on her is we're going to bake her again. And the baking will cure the pencil as well. And now if it's too light, it will get covered up by paint. But if it's too dark, it's going to look fake and funny. So it's better to go with a little bit lighter if you're thinking, I'm not sure that's dark enough. It's better to side with the lighter color, because you can always make it darker later if you don't like the color. I just make a mark. I don't even know if you can tell that's painted with the way the light shines on the vinyl. I'm not sure you can see that on camera even. But the more superficial the crease is, the more superficial you want to make your pencil line, because it's going to look very fake if you have thick, heavy, really dark lines on your doll. And like I said, you can always make them darker later if you think they're not dark enough. Now, how dark and thick your pencil lines are going to be have a lot to do with just the way you use them. If you're pressing down hard, you're going to make a fatter, darker line than if you're just going very softly across it. And when I say softly, I mean almost barely touching the vinyl. Will make you a nice, light, crease. If you're trying to get a darker crease, of course you're going to want to go a little bit darker. But you have to just take it easy and experiment with it a little bit in order to get the color of the crease and the thickness of the crease that you want to get. It's not immediately that easy. I struggled with this for a while. There's also a learning curve on this. I used several different colors. I used reds, I used purples, I used browns, because different artists that you watch doing this all have a color they like. And they all say, oh, this is the color. And then you use it and you're going, oh, I hate that color. Which is fine, because it's your art and you're going to pick the color you want. I like this color because it's the closest to me to a color that you'd actually see on a baby. I don't think that they have any purple creases. I just don't. Now, when I was painting the creases on, I liked the purple because it was shadowy and very, very light looking. But with pencil, it's just too purple. I don't know if you can actually get too purple. But if you try to go with a lighter purple, you're getting like a lavender or something, and you don't want that, you know, a lavender colored crease on your doll. That would look very, very fake. So I changed several times to different colors until I got the color that I thought looked the best. And I like this color. It's called henna. And it's sort of in the brownish terracotta color, kind of. I do have a I do have a terracotta pencil, but I think it's a little wrong. Like I said, I just went through and ordered some pencils. I said, I want a brownish red. This looks brownish red. This looks brownish red. This looks brown. And I ordered a bunch of pencils. I tried them out on paper first, and I decided on a few colors I thought might look good. And then I proceeded to try to crease my doll with it. And I'm not going to say I didn't have any oopses, because I did. There was a couple of colors that I thought were too dark, and a couple of colors I thought were too light. And then I zeroed in on this henna pencil, and it's the one I like now. So I pretty much know all the pencils I want now. But you have to decide for yourself if you want to do your creases with pencils even. They stay pretty good if you do them correctly. That took me a while too. You want to make sure your lines, like I said, are way down in the creases, not up on any other part of the doll. If your pencil is too dull, it won't fit down in the crease good enough, and you'll be making a lot of marks on the doll itself instead of down in the crease. And if you're making them too dark or too light, that affects how they look at the end too. Like I said, it's better to side with lighter colors and then later go back and make them darker if you don't like the color of them. Because the one thing you don't want to do is want to have to try to take some of that pencil off. That's hard. I used to take my brush, I use this flat brush, and I'd brush them. And that does help a little, but it also tends to make them a lot lighter. So if you've already got your color down pretty good, then you don't want to make them any lighter than they already are. I just take a very light touch and I just go on and just crease all the creases I want to do at one time. It doesn't take very long at all. This isn't a lengthy process. And after you're done, your doll looks pretty good. Now, if your creases are too light, they could fade away. When you come out from the bake, you may notice that they don't look the same. And even the pencil lightens up. But light is what I'm looking for. I don't want a dark crease on my doll. I think they look very, very fake when they're really, really dark. And if you're the person who wants to crease a really lot on your doll, and I know a lot of artists do not recommend that, but I'm finding now that no, if they had a super, super heavy amount of creases on them, I would not crease every crease. But I like to crease all these little lines on the fingers, and I like to crease most of the doll. So therefore I need my creases to look exactly the way I want them to look, or they don't look good at the end. Too much dark creasing is really, really bad. But I don't do really dark creasing. See, I don't even know if you can tell she's creased, but she is, and it's just enough. And believe it or not, some paint is going to stick to the creases as well. That's another reason to put light creases on your doll, because the heavier and darker your creases are, the more paint's going to stick to them. And you don't want a heavy load of paint sticking in the creases of your dolls. It makes them look muddy and dirty. So if you're careful with your paint, and you're also careful with your creases, you're going to come out with just the right amount. And it looks awesome when you do that. And it takes a little practice to know just how dark to get them. I always go with really light because that's what I like. And I don't keep my pencil super sharp. I don't like it super sharp because the line is too thin then. And you're feeling like you need to press down harder, and then you make something you don't like, because heavy pressing with your pencil is not attractive to me. I just barely scrape it across the vinyl. Barely. And that makes it just perfect to me. You're going to get a feel for it after you've done a few dolls. You know, you're doing this really, really light creasing, and you're probably going, well, it's too light. I just have to go over it now. But it's better than pressing down hard and getting something really super dark that you have to try to eradicate later, which I dislike that very much. And so over time, you get to where you know that's not going to be dark enough. I'm just going to go over it again right now. And it takes a little time to get to that point, so that's why I always say go with light, because you can correct that a lot better than you can trying to correct the dark. All the light takes is a little more paint. I mean, a little more pencil. And the dark, you have to try to eradicate pencil, which isn't as easy as adding pencil by any means. Some of this may not show, which that's fine with me too. If every single crease doesn't exactly show, it's all right with me. Some of them you really want to show better than others, so I didn't do these up here, I don't think. It doesn't look like I did. So the ones you want to really show, then if they were eradicated, you want to come back and put a little more in there. It just takes a minute. It's not like it's a lengthy process. It's not like painting. I remember painting creases, and I'd have to go over them 4 or 5 times before they'd stay. And then sometimes they still didn't stay. I've actually seen artists that every time they put a coat of paint on their doll, they put that same color in the creases. And I think they're just inviting a big gooey mess. I don't know. Maybe they're doing it very, very, very lightly, which is what I'd have to do if I did that, because I would end up with something I didn't want. I'm sure of it. Emma has Anna's hands because, like I said, hers were 3/4, and I didn't want to use 3/4. I'm considering keeping this doll, and I wanted her to be a full limb baby. I don't know why, because once they're dressed, I don't really care. It's just that if I do sell her, people are more liable to buy her if she has full limbs. Almost everybody likes full limbs. There are a few people that don't care. Some people just don't care, and they'll buy them no matter what their limb configuration is. And if they're an artist kit, I hardly ever change their limb configuration. I do sometimes, but hardly ever. I have a Maggie that I changed because Well, I wanted to make her into Maddox, and I didn't have a male torso. At the time, they didn't have any Maddoxes. And so I was wanting to make her into a Maddox and just not have a torso. And so I just ended up changing her limbs to these bigger, chunkier limbs, because I think for a doll that is that big, her limbs are very small. That's my opinion anyway. And so I wanted bigger limbs, and I put her on a bigger body too. And she looks fabulous to me. Well, she's a he now. And that's the one I'm keeping. The one I just made recently that y'all saw me make is going to be for sale. I haven't even put him together. I was out of bodies. I have them now. But I'm going to wait till Monday, so maybe I can include Emma in there and a couple more dolls maybe. And Monday's put together day. On Mondays, well, not every Monday, but after I get a number of dolls, I just don't like putting them together. It's a hassle. But I wait until I have a number of dolls to put together, and I just sit and put dolls together. If they need eyes, I put them in. If they need eyelashes, I put them on. If they need whatever they need, I do it to them. And then I just put them together. And there she is, all creased. See, that didn't take very long at all. And now I'm going to redo her lips and her nails. And this time, the lips and nails will be darker. See, this is how her lips look now. I just put a very, very thin coat on them. And by no means the color we want at the end. I'm going to red up her face a little more. Let me get a brush up here that looks like it has something in it. It's hard to tell with these brushes. I don't know how long they've been sitting there. They might be too dry by now. They can't hardly get too dry though, because they just let go of the paint pretty good. I want her a little bit blushier than she was. And now that her first coat is dry and baked on, I can put another coat on her without worrying about any of it coming off. That's one of the problems when you're using this drier paint. If you're putting on coat on top of coat on top of coat, and you're not making sure it's dry, you will start to see little places in the blush where it looks like the paint's coming back off. And that's what it's doing, it's coming back off. And it'll leave a little white circle or something. And there's no way, you'll never correct it without baking it first, because it's just too already stubborn. Yes, I want her much blushier than she was, so that her blush will last all the way through all of her layers of paint. And that's much better. It's still not going to be very dark though. If you're trying to make a darker baby, you have to remember that the blush has to be darker too. Because if you don't, you're going to end up with, well, I was going to pull down a head from up there. I have a bunch of heads up there, because when I put the glue on the rims and stuff, they have to sit up and dry, and I put them upside down like Emmy is right here. See, she's upside down, and I haven't even rooted her hair yet. But anyway, the darker you want your doll, the darker you're going to have to make the blush, or else it won't show at all. And you can do that in stages as well. You don't have to do it all at the beginning. I used to do the blush last, so you know, it's not set in stone that it has to be first. I just like it first. But if you're, say, working on your doll and you see that, oh, I don't see any blush anymore, and I've put on these 3 layers and now the blush is just gone, you can bake and then re-blush her and bake again and continue right on where you left off. I'm going to go with that. That looks pretty good to me. And we'll see how she looks after she bakes this time. She may be dark enough, I don't know. But I'm going to do her lips and her nails now. And then we're going to get her in the oven for another bake. And when she comes out this time, she will be ready to start taking some layers. And we'll start with, of course, the flesh layer, which is 05. 05 is just a color. The flesh layers start with 08, which is very creamy and pinkish looking. And they go all the way down to 02, which is very, very dark for an ethnic baby. And they gradually get darker each layer. The higher the number, the lighter the paint. So 05 is about in the middle, and it could be a very, very light. It's not, I don't, in my opinion, it's not dark enough for an ethnic baby. I was going to say it could be a very, very light ethnic baby, but it can't. I've actually, excuse me, hiccups again. I've actually made a doll before using a color darker than 05, and it just looked like a dark white baby to me. You know, every race of people has dark and light skinned. You can see Mexican people that look like they have a very deep tan, and others that just look pale as you are. Well, pale as me, rather. I don't know how pale you are. But it's all just something to do with your heritage or your family. And you know, even white people can be very dark skinned and have a like almost Latin look to them, or have olive skin, or they can just have many different colors of skin. And so it's all just relative to, you know, how you want to paint your doll. And sometimes they're darker skinned and sometimes they're lighter skinned. That's how she looks now, her lips. Still not dark enough to me. She'll still get another layer, at least one or two more layers probably. But I like my dolls to be a little bit darker. Really, really pale dolls don't look good to me. They look sickly. Even white, fair babies are really not born that fair. If they were going to represent a 3 or 4 month old baby, maybe so. But when they're representing a newborn, I don't know. I just like them better when they're darker. Now, when you're painting your nails, you may get some that paint a little better than others. I'm getting that right now. Some of them, the paint is taking much, much better, which means that later on when you're trying to paint them a third or a fourth time, you may have to skip a couple of nails because they're dark enough already. It doesn't mean you have to do every single nail every single time. You want them to be the same color. You don't want some of them to be really, really dark and some of them really, really light. That would be weird. Whether they have dark or light nails, they should all match. That's my feeling anyway. All these thin layers of paint work together to make a color that you're going to like. But if you start just whacking it on there in thick layers, you're going to get this buildup in the base of the nails, and it's going to look funky. Now would also be a good time to model your doll if you were going to model them. Usually it's the first thing you do, though. Most people do it that way. I guess some people don't, but I would say the majority of people model at the very, very beginning, even before they put on the undertones, I think. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure. I just despise modeling. It's so blotchy looking. I'm not really after hyper realism. I guess I'll never be a hyper realistic artist. But I'm just going for a pretty doll. And I just don't think modeling is pretty. It shouldn't be your main concern, but it should be a concern. If you're making dolls to sell, tell yourself this: what if this doll doesn't sell? Am I going to like to keep it? Will I want this doll in my collection? That's what I ran into with some dolls that I made that I didn't like them. I said, I don't have to like them. I'm making them to sell. But then, surprise, surprise, they didn't sell. And so here's all these dolls that I don't like. And obviously nobody else liked them either because they didn't sell. And you're going to find that you will sell some dolls here and there. But if you're trying to sell year-round a bulk of dolls, it's not going to happen, I don't think, unless your dolls are extremely, extremely cheap. Because there's a doll season, and what I have found is outside of doll season you'll sell 1 or 2 or 3 dolls here and there, but that's about it. But what I do is I certainly post all my dolls, and I don't wait till doll season to do it. That way people can be looking, they can be watching them and liking them and putting them in carts and asking questions and doing all those things. And then when doll season hits and it's people are starting to buy dolls, it's Christmas time when they buy the dolls most of the time. So doll season is considered September through mid-December, I'd say. And I don't find September to be that heavy of a doll season at all. But October, November, and about half of December, that's when people are going to buy most of your dolls. So what I do is I just make dolls. I don't necessarily at the beginning of the year make them very fast, but I'm making them and I'm posting them. And yes, some people will buy dolls in the middle of the year like that, but the bulk of them are going to be sold during doll season. And everybody's looking for a doll for their wife or their sister or their daughter or their niece or something like that for Christmas. And even then, though, they're going to be looking for bargains. People like bargains. So I try to keep my dolls a little bit on the lower end of what I think they're worth. And I depend on selling in bulk to make money. You don't make very much on each doll, but last year I sold 50 so during Christmas season, and I think that's really, really good. And so this year I'm looking to try to sell about 100. And I didn't have much more than 50 last year, but nearly every doll sold that I tried to sell, and a few didn't. But most of the ones after Christmas, most of the ones that don't sell, I'll take down and give them some kind of a revamp. Either root some more hair on them or put some more paint on them because they're too pale or something. And when I repost, I'll repost them at a discount. And well, they're at a discount now, but still. And then the ones that don't sell in a reasonable length of time after that, they just get donated. They go to the nursing homes, and the ladies there just love any doll you give them. They don't care if it's a boy or a girl, a big one or a little one. They don't care. They just love their little baby, and that's all it is. They don't care what ethnicity it is. It just doesn't matter to them. They'll just take any little baby you give them and love it. And so that's what I do. And then it clears out the dolls that didn't sell or wouldn't sell, or I don't want to fool with anymore, or whatever you want to call it. I don't really know what you call it. It's usually I don't want to fool with it anymore. I'm making room for the newer dolls. Because by the time you make 100 dolls, you've improved greatly, and your next dolls are going to look better than these that you're giving away to nursing homes and stuff. It's because you're constantly improving. You'll find you're making the skin tone a little better, or you're making the paint a little more even, or you put the enhancements on better or something. You learned a new technique, or you're rooting better, or whatever it is. A lot of the dolls I sold last year had hair rooted on top of penciled hair, because I used to pencil my hair, and then when I decided I wanted to learn to root, I just couldn't see myself making brand new dolls to learn with when I had all these on the shelf that had penciled hair already. And so I rooted over the top of the penciled hair to learn how. And so those dolls I sold at a discount because I thought they were inferior. A lot of people thought they were combo hair, and so they liked them, but surprise, surprise. But anyway, we're going to get Emma back in the oven and get her baked again. And when we come back, we're going to start with putting some layers on her. And the more layers you put on, I don't mean put 50 layers on or anything. You just can't do that with heat set. It just doesn't come out well. But it doesn't for me anyway. Maybe if you made it really watery like a wash, it would, but I don't do that. I don't have that kind of time when it comes to making dolls to put 50 washes on a doll. I do layers, and I usually just put 2 of each color. I'm going to have to mix some because this one is almost gone. You don't want to start a doll with that little bit of paint, because if you run out, you won't have the exact same color when you mix again. And in some of the paints, like purple, I hardly ever use any purple. This purple has been here forever. But anyway, I have 3 main colors. It's the flesh color, which is 05. It's the warm blush, and it's the regular blush. I do use blue, but I don't use a lot of it either. It lasts a really, really long time too. That's why they're in smaller jars. I did get me a couple of things to mix paint in with the air dry paint. One of them was an ice tray. Believe it or not, I'm gonna grab it real quick and show it to y'all. This is just a regular ice tray. I found it at Walmart when I was there today. And it has a snap-on lid. I don't know how hard this lid is to get off. There. And the snap-on lid will keep my paint from evaporating. And I have a little well for each color. Lots of colors. I can put like 12 colors in here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 14 colors. I can put 14 colors in here, but I don't have 14 colors, but still, look how much room you have to mix paint. All these little wells. And then when you're finished painting for the day, and you want to come back tomorrow and still have your paint ready, you just snap this little lid on, and your paint is safe for the night. And you can just take it to the sink and rinse it out. I think it's okay to put this kind of paint down the drain because it's water-based. You can't, I mean, I guess you could put heat set paint down, but it's got paint thinner in it. You wouldn't want to. And I pour it in the garbage on puppy pads or old paper towels that I've already used and thrown away. And but anyway, I thought this was a great idea. It was only $1 and something too. It's real cheap. And because the plastic little wells that the ice goes into are real shiny coated, I don't think that the paint will even soak into the plastic and turn it a funny color. So this was a way good idea. I was going to go to the Dollar Tree and get some of those little plastic containers with the snap-on lids. I think they're $1.25 each. And it's not, they need to change the name of that store to $1.25 store because it's not $1 anymore. But anyway, I thought this was a better idea. The wells are kind of deep, so you can make if you want a lot of paint or a little paint, you can do that. But they're not as deep as one of these jars right here. These are just super big for the tiny bit of paint I was making. But when I get ready to work on Kate again, I'm going to use this. And I'm going to mix my paint in all these different little wells. And I noticed some of them are bigger. This one's bigger, that one's bigger, this one's bigger. And the rest of them are skinnier. I don't know why, they're just that way. But anyway, I'm going to be making me some paint. 4 of them are bigger than the rest of them. I guess they had to be that way to even out the size of the tray. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I'll just put colors in those bigger wells that I use more of. Anyway, that's what I got for my paint. I thought it was a good idea. Anyway, we're going to get Emma back in the oven. I mean, yeah, Emma. This is, I get confused with these names. This one's Emma. And get her another bake, and we'll be back later on to do her layers. And I'm just gonna say, please like, subscribe, and share, and happy reborning. I'm using my little clicker to turn it on and off.